Welcome to the Prime Health Podcast with your host, Dr. Derek Barron. Dr. Barron interviews doctors, wellness experts, and healthcare leaders who are revolutionizing how we approach health and longevity. The Prime Health Podcast explores breakthrough science, personal and patient stories, and practical insights that are shaping the future of health and wellness. So sit back, listen in, and prepare to transform how you think about your path towards Prime Health with Dr. Barron and his special guest.
Hello, my name is Dr. Derek Barron, and welcome to another amazing episode of the Prime Health Podcast. We interview doctors, nurses, scientists, wellness experts, and healthcare leaders who are revolutionizing how we approach health and longevity. We explore breakthrough science, personal and patient stories, and practical insights that are shaping the future of health and wellness. Today's episode is brought to you by Grow Solutions, where we partner with healthcare professionals to scale operations and grow revenue with AI-driven solutions. So if you want to learn more about that to take your practice or business to the next level, stick around. You'll love what we have in show for you. And you can just add the word growth in the comments below. But I want to get you to the star of the podcast today. I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Bill Andrews, a pioneering scientist who's dedicated his career to solving humanity's greatest challenge, which is aging itself. Dr. Andrews is the founder and CEO of Sierra Sciences, where he leads groundbreaking research on telomeres, the cellular clocks that determine how we age. Dr. Andrew made history in the 1990s as Geron Corporation when he led the research team that discovered both the RNA and protein components of human telomerase, the enzyme that could hold the key to reversing aging. With over 40 years in biotech research and more than 50 U.S. patents to his name, he was awarded second place at the National Inventor of the Year in 1997. And what makes Dr. Andrews unique is his scientist-first approach. While others focus on marketing, he's in the lab pushing the boundaries of what's possible in human longevity. He's been featured in Popular Science, The Today Show, co-stars in the documentary The Immortalist alongside Dr. Aubrey de Grey. Now, beyond the lab, Dr. Andrews is an ultra-marathon runner who regularly competes in 50 and 100-plus mile races, and he's in he'll talk about his streak of running, which is fantastic, in extreme environments from Death Valley to the Himalayas, which is basically living proof that anti-aging research isn't just theoretical, but deeply personal. So Dr. Andrews, I want to welcome you to the Prime Health Podcast.
Thank you. Great introduction.
Oh, you're welcome. It's tough to top what you do. So real quick, tell us about your current streak of running as we discussed prior to the podcast.
Well, before I say, I gotta say that running is not so much a health thing for me as much as it is just something fun. Okay, I just enjoy the adventure that running provides. Most of my running is done off trail, but around the time that COVID started, I decided maybe it would be best for me to kind of stay away from races and stuff like that because there was too much risk of getting COVID. So I just decided to quit tapering. The only time I ever would taper, which means take a day off or something like that from running, would be when I was getting ready for a race. So after like a few years, I suddenly found out that I had, because I record on my GPS, I carry two GPSs on my wrist. Okay. And I hadn't missed a day in like 2 years. And I thought, well, let's keep that streak going. And now I'm over 5 years without missing a day. And the shortest run that I've done in the last 5+ years is 2 miles. So, and then there's a lot of like 25 milers and 50 milers in there too. But yeah, it's all for the adventure and for the fun. But I do think it's one of the best health things I am doing. Yeah. But I think the secret is to actually make it so you're not thinking it's for health. Think of it as like exploring and adventure and things like that. And it doesn't have to be running. It can be kayaking. It can be biking, any kind of endurance sport where there's adventure.
Yeah. And especially if you're doing trail running, it's much better to look at trail running than city streets.
Yeah, city streets are boring.
Yes, they are. Yeah. So, Dr. Andrews, I want to ask you, was there a life event that drew you into anti-aging?
Yeah, actually, a long time ago. So I was in elementary school, and one day my teacher sent me home with a note pinned to my shirt. I guess I was too young to be trusted to carry it on my own. And my parents opened up the note and it said, "Your son is very interested in science and medicine. You should nurture it. Okay. And my parents were already kind of aware of it because they had bought me a microscope for Christmas, and it was a crappy microscope, and I cried about it. This is like when I was like 9 or 10 years old. And they went out and bought me a really nice, like 4-foot long, 8-inch reflector telescope, which I was out every night looking at the moons of Jupiter and the rings of Saturn and things like that. But after this note came along, my father came out onto the front lawn where I was looking through the microscope or the telescope. Now I spend a lot of time, more time on the microscope. But
Yeah.
he came out and he said to me, Bill, when you grow up, you should become a doctor and find the cure for aging.
Oh, wow.
These are his exact words. And then he says, I don't know why nobody's done that yet. I'm a 10-year-old kid, okay, at the time.
Sure.
And I was just blown away at that goal. That became my life mission. I was not the type of person that got into the field because some relative of mine or me or somebody else a friend was suffering from some type of a disease. I just knew that aging was something that occurs, and wouldn't it be nice if we didn't have it? So I just, from that day on, became obsessed with that field, and to the point when I started, what I found out was that my father was very obsessed with the field and had never told me that before. He hated the idea that he was getting old, and he wanted a cure for aging. And he was a television producer, mostly game shows, but a few movies. His name was Ralph Andrews. He's passed away now. But he, like, as my career went through, and I was obsessed, even in high school and college, I was starting anti-aging clubs, having discussions with people. Some of these people that participated in this club ended up getting Nobel Prizes in medicine, things like that. But one time, I found a conference on anti-aging that I wanted to go to, and my father went with me because he decided he wanted to make a documentary on aging.
Okay.
And so we got a chance to talk to all the world's leaders on the field of aging. So before then, during the anti-aging clubs and stuff like that, what we used to do is theorize on why do we age and how do we age? All the theories on aging didn't make sense to us. Okay, the twos and twos didn't add up, is what I always say. And so we were constantly trying to philosophically try to think of some way to explain how and why we age, and really what is aging. But in 1961. Leonard Hayflick came up with a finding that human cells can only divide a certain number of times. I didn't hear about this until 1971.
Okay.
But it became a great topic in our anti-aging club meetings, and we decided, wow, that's so weird. Why aren't human cells like bacteria that can divide and divide and divide indefinitely? Why do human cells can only divide a certain number of times and then stop? How could a cell know how many times it has divided and how many times it has left? And cells don't have brains. I mean, they can't think. So there had to be some counting mechanism going on inside of cells that would, every time a cell divided, it counted something, but the cell didn't know it. It wasn't like a brain kind of function. It was just, so when the counting got to a certain point, it stopped. And so we spent a lot of time figuring out what could it possibly be. And we came up with the best explanation, knowing everything about what cells have in the biochemistry of their insides and things like that. The only way to really explain it would be that there had to be something like ride tickets at an amusement park, is what we used to say. That where every time a cell divided, it lost a ticket. It would divide again, it would lose another ticket. And so when all of a sudden it ran out of tickets, just like at an amusement park, you can't go on any more rides. Well, it couldn't divide anymore. Okay, so what could those ride tickets be? And we were just brain dead. We just could not figure out everything we know about the insides of a cell, biochemistry. There's nothing that could be that counting mechanism. But then in that same conference that my father and I went to, there was one speaker, a guy named Calvin Harley, Dr. Calvin Harley, and he spoke about how telomeres shorten every time a cell divides. I'd never heard that before. That was 1993, I think it was.
Okay.
I'd never heard that before. And he said that after when the telomeres get shorter and shorter by incremental units, he could measure the length of a telomere. He could tell somebody how old they were and how long it would be before they would die of old age. And I thought this was fascinating. I'm thinking, hey, these are the ride tickets. And it turned out that when telomeres got down to about 5,000 bases in length, bases are units of measurement of DNA, okay, the cell couldn't divide anymore. I thought, my God, here's the ride ticket. So before he could even get off the stage, I was at the bottom of the podium and asking him, has anybody figured out how to add add telomere sequences back to lengthen the telomeres? I didn't call them ride tickets at the time.
Okay.
And he said, no, we've been working on it for years and years, and we have not figured any way of doing that yet. And I just said, well, let me come and work with you. I will have it figured out in 3 months, I said.
Oh.
And he accepted. I was the shortest job interview ever. I was offered the job on the spot. And that was because I'd already had a really successful career after getting my PhD and going into biotech. I was one of the key inventors of a lot of things, more than anybody else on the planet in biotech, like human growth hormone, erythropoietin, tissue plasminogen activator, beta seron, osteoinductive factor, meltastat. Tons and tons of stuff that I invented that became big blockbusters in the biotech field. And so he thought, he wants me on there. These other projects were things that other groups of scientists had tried for years and couldn't succeed, and I took it on single-handedly. My company that I was working for at the time, called Codon Corporation, was contracted constantly to get me to work on projects that they couldn't do, and that includes Genentech and Amgen. So I would get these projects done in really short order, and the companies would benefit tremendously from it. So he offered me the job on the spot. 3 months and 17 days later, I ended up, my team and I discovered human telomerase, the enzyme that keeps telomeres from shortening in our reproductive cells. And I blamed Geron Corporation for the additional 17 days because they distracted me so much away from my research that I couldn't make my 3-month deadline. But it all started with the idea that telomeres or loss of ride tickets couldn't be occurring in our germline cells. And we knew that from my anti-aging clubs when we were talking about the discovery by Leonard Hayflick about limited number of cell divisions. And that was called the Hayflick limit. Okay, so we knew that our primordial germ cells, our reproductive cells, couldn't have a Hayflick limit. Otherwise, our children would be born with shorter telomeres than we have. Their children are born with shorter telomeres than they have. So we knew there had to be some mechanism inside of our reproductive cells to obliterate the Hayflick limit so that cells could keep dividing just like bacteria do. So that was my focus, was to focus on what's the difference between the reproductive cells and other cells in our body. And that's how we discovered telomerase. And we put telomerase, so after I announced that we had discovered it, because I was so confident that it's thing, but we still had to prove it to them, everybody else. We ended up putting the telomerase gene into normal skin cells, and we did it on 100 other types of cells too. But first one was some fibroblast cells from skin. And we showed that it completely stopped the Hayflick limit. These cells could divide and divide. And what was important, I'll say why it's important later when I come back to it, is these cells did not become cancer cells, okay? Cancer is where cells lose control of their growth. Whereas these cells still had control of their growth. They just had more opportunities to divide when they needed or wanted to divide. Wants a bad word because it means that they have a brain, but you know what I mean. And that made big headline news. And the company I was working for at the time, Geron Corporation, made a tremendous amount of money off of stock. It revolutionized everything, and that just changed my life because I've been focused on that ever since. And the other thing, and you didn't mention during the introduction, that the other benefit, the other great thing about telomerase is that almost all cancers produce telomerase. Okay, and this, I did a bunch of work on that too because I was already National Inventor of the Year for my cancer research. I forgot to mention that before I went to Geron Corporation, I did a lot of cancer stuff, created a lot of products, took things through clinical studies. So I was National Inventor of the Year for my cancer research. And so I wanted to also see if I could kill cancer cells by inhibiting the enzyme telomerase inside of cancer cells. Unfortunately, this led to a lot of people believing that, well, telomerase must be the cause of cancer, but it was quite the opposite. But it's still, I did the research, and I found out that my team and I could kill every cancer cell by inhibiting telomerase with an antisense molecule that I actually designed. And we delivered it to cancer cells, and it killed them in all cases. And it had zero effect on normal cells. And so in this, I remember this talk I gave to all the investors and partners and owners of Geron Corporation. I announced that we had cured aging and cured cancer in the same week. And I presented data showing both of them. And I'll never forget the CFO of the company and the lead investor of one of the venture capital groups got up on stage, and they said, well, this is exciting, but we can't do both. We have to focus on one. Which one is going to be the quickest return on investment?
Sure.
To my surprise, they said cancer. They're going to focus on going after cancer. And I was devastated by that because I'd already done a lot of cancer research. The work I had done at Geron was more proof of concept about telomerase being a target for curing cancer. But I had said that it would never work because the problem is by inhibiting telomerase, you cause the telomeres in the cancer cells to get critically short. That induces skyrocketing mutation rates, and that's going to cause cancers to survive whatever you treat them with. And so the cancers are always going to come back. And I said, so that won't work. But they decided to pursue that anyway. I went ahead and started working on development of an anti-aging treatment, working on trying to test different plant extracts and things like that for anything that would cause the telomerase gene to turn on. Since our reproductive cells have the gene, all of our cells have the gene.
So if I can ask a question in that, Dr. Andrews, would be, do all types of cells in the body have these telomeres and telomerase, or, is it limited to certain parts?
All of our cells in our entire body have telomeres,
okay.
But only our and all of our cells have the gene for telomerase, but only our reproductive cells have that gene turned on. So my big goal was to turn that gene on in all of our cells. And we were working on testing plant extracts that we'd gotten from China. And we had discovered that astragalus root gave us a very weak signal of possibly turning on telomerase. And when we announced that to the rest of the company, they essentially said to us, hey, I thought we told you to stop working on aging and focus on cancer. That was pretty surprising to me, unexpected. I kind of went across the hallway into my office and called up a venture capital firm and said, hey, is there anything I can do to help you guys while I focus on starting my own company?
Yeah.
Focus on curing aging. I just need an income while I'm doing that. And they put me to work helping save companies that they were invested in that weren't getting the job done. I would go to these companies and solve their problems in like a matter of a few days.
Okay.
So I was earning an income and working on starting my own company at the time. And that's how Sierra Sciences got going. And now we're focused totally on trying to use telomerase to cure aging. And I consider cancer an aging-related disease.
Absolutely.
So we're still working on cancer.
So how does telomere length correlate with biological aging or disease risk?
Well, let me first explain what telomeres are. I already said they're at the tips of our chromosomes, but they are made up of DNA. When we're first conceived, our telomeres are 15,000 bases in length. Then every time a cell divides, the telomeres get approximately 40 base pairs shorter. So the size of a ride ticket would be 40 bases.
So are you stating that we only have so much, like a cell only has so much in the telomere length? And as we age, your ticket that you're saying, one more ticket for another ride. So every day I'm losing a ticket to a ride.
Yeah. And we have 100 ride tickets. Okay.
100.
From the day we're conceived, we have 100 ride tickets. But the day we're born, we've already used up 50 of those tickets because there's so much cell division. So we only have 50 more tickets for the rest of our lives. Okay. And then, so 125 years later, we run out of ride tickets and we can't live any longer than that. And we die. But the reason why none of us actually live to be 125 is because we all have unperfect lifestyles and unperfect genetics, which accelerate the use of the ride tickets. And so the ride tickets get used up faster than a super healthy person would have. So what we did is, if you had the perfect genetics and led the perfect lifestyle, you could live to be 125 if you weren't run over by a bus or something like that.
Okay.
And but our average age is approximately 80 years old, and that's because of all the acceleration that we do from not having the perfect lifestyle, perfect genetics. I think all of that can be abolished if we could figure out a way to add ride tickets back, and that's been my 100% focus ever since discovering telomerase at Geron Corporation. And,
so with that said, Dr. Andrews, if for all the biohackers that are out there, if they're saying they want to live to 100, 110, 125, pushing past that, in your opinion, if they're not looking at increasing or adding telomeres, it's just not going to happen.
Well, they can decrease the rate of telomere shortening. And that's something that everybody has the ability to do now. And that's with mostly antioxidants and anti-inflammatories. So do those. But I also recommend, identifying what foods cause inflammation in you. And I recommend a test called the ALCAT test, ALCAT, which I take every year. And it tells me what foods are causing inflammation. I just don't eat those foods. Also exercise. Exercise is important, but a lot of rumors are going around that exercise causes inflammation. And it does if you're an inconsistent exerciser, like, and I don't want to promote running. I just want to promote endurance sports. So kayaking and bicycling and things like that are just as good as running. But you got to do them all the time. You can't be somebody that just does them once a month.
Yeah,
you'll still win marathons and be on your hands and knees throwing up.
If you want to get into the gym and see a benefit, you can't lift on Monday and then not lift again for 3 weeks on another Monday. It just doesn't happen. It's the consistency.
It actually trains your body to recognize the stress on your body as something attacking you, and so it induces an inflammatory response. And inflammation is the number one cause of aging. Okay, and so if you run consistently, your body doesn't recognize it as aging. I mean, I get my inflammation markers tested all the time, and they're always undetectable, even though I run every single day.
Yeah.
And I just by just keeping it fun. I always say, when it quits being, get out exercise every day. When it quits being fun, quit.
Yeah.
Even though it's only 5 minutes. Okay.
Right.
Because if you do this every day, you're going to find out it gets easier and easier and easier. As long as you don't push yourself. Okay. Keep it fun. I always tell people when they're out running, follow a coyote. You know, that's the greatest way to get adventure. Is just go off trail.
Yeah.
Go where the coyote goes. You'll see things nobody else gets to see.
Yeah.
But of course, you have to be in a place that has coyotes.
Yeah. Yeah. I live up in Idaho, so the grizzlies aren't here. My son's in Montana, so I don't want him running in the woods too much unless he's got bear spray with him. But that's yeah.
I definitely am glad I'm not anywhere near grizzly bears. I see black bears and brown bears all the time.
Yeah.
And I tell you, the secret to them is just act like you're not afraid of them, and you be nice to them and stuff like that. But they're terrified of me. They run away like mad. I just feel sorry for them. But because humans are out there hunting them all the time.
Yeah. So you had mentioned kind of like, certain foods or supplements, I guess, but are there certain types of supplements that we'll get into one at the end here that you just recently created, but is there something that I can eat that will help increase or activate some of the telomerase activity?
No. Okay.
No.
There and if there was, we'd be seeing people live to be 200 years old.
Okay.
Because they'd be eating it already. And that's one of the big problems with testing plant extracts. I've only tested 20,000 different plant extracts so far.
Only? That's it? Just only 20,000?
I invented and patented a high throughput robotic screening protocol for detecting anything that, when mixed with cells in microtiter dishes, and causes those cells to start producing telomerase. So we can test up to 4,000 a day. The limit isn't because of our robots. The limit is because of the cost of getting plant extracts.
Yeah.
There's 3 million different plant extracts that we can test with just an incredible amount of funding. We're already spending $2 million a month on the screening protocol. So bringing in that kind of funding is the big obstacle. But there's nothing you can eat now, but there are, and everybody's different. Okay. There are things you can, so that nothing induces the expression of telomerase, but there are things that do cause inflammation and oxidative stress that you want to stay away from, but everybody's different. That's why I recommend the LCAT test. Now, there are some things where everybody really isn't different, okay? And that's what I found. Okay, so I've got a bunch of books that I think are the best books ever written. And one of them called Inflammation Nation by Floyd Chilton, who goes by the nickname of Ski. He talks all about arachidonic acid, which is an omega-6 fatty acid.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only found in meat, fowl, fish, and dairy. It's not found in plants. So arachidonic acid is extremely inflammatory. And from the LCAT test, I found out that I personally am extremely sensitive to arachidonic acid. So I've gone to a completely vegan diet to stay away from dairy and meats. And I think it's benefited me a lot. I really can't say I noticed any change, but I believe in the science. Yeah. So I have faith in that. So I'm on a vegan diet. And something else that I ended up, another great book called Preventing and Reversing Heart Disease by Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn. Now, this book's more about heart disease, but when I read it, I was more focused on the inflammation, stuff like that. And he made a big point, also agreeing with Floyd Chilton about doing a vegan diet, but he also said, stay away from oils.
Seed oils?
All oils, including olive oil, which is
really?
Marketed as being something really great for your health.
Mm-hmm.
He did a lot of peer-reviewed studies and stuff like that, showing that those things, the oils actually do induce inflammation. But more importantly, they cause your collateral arteries and your microvasculature in your heart to collapse. Okay. And that's okay as long as your coronary arteries are open.
Right.
But if you're a person that has a risk of coronary artery disease or carotid, or coronary, that is a coronary artery disease, or at least an artery disease. If you have a chance of that happening, you need to keep your collateral arteries open so you can still live if you get a blood clot or something like that. And so, I mean, I was blown away with how great the data is, but everybody seems to ignore it. So I'm on a no oil diet too. So I'm vegan, no oil. I don't even use oil for cooking. My twin brother, I mentioned, I think to you a few days ago or something like that, I have an identical twin brother who has not been trying to lead as healthy a lifestyle as I have. But he's recently decided, after especially seeing how different he and I look now, he's definitely gone onto my vegan no oil diet too, and has actually started a Facebook group called Squeaky Vegans. The reason for squeaky is no oil.
Got it.
So it's actually become very popular, but I recommend people go to it because it's a great way to get involved in people that are into the vegan no oil diet, which seems to be helping a lot. But so I would say, more importantly, stay away from arachidonic acid. Arachidonic acid is inflammatory to everybody.
So I'm gonna ask a question on that. So does that mean so you're in a vegan diet, if there's somebody that's had a carnivore diet, they're absolutely consuming arachidonic acid without a doubt, somebody can take the ALCAT test and show that they don't have as high of markers? Is that possible for somebody that believes in the carnivore diet?
Yeah, I'd be jealous because I still love meats. Okay, I didn't become vegan to save animals, though that is icing on the cake. I like that idea. I became vegan for my own health reasons.
Okay.
And I get blood work every 3 months, just because I monitor things. I'm a scientist. I monitor things.
Exactly.
And I'm always blown away. And I blood pressure every day. I'm just even this morning, I've taken my blood pressure. I was very pleased. And my blood work always pleases me. You get your blood work and they have things marked in red and things marked in green. Mine are all green, every single one of them. And so I think the diet and exercise and the LCAT tests and all that kind of stuff really pays off.
Yeah. If somebody wanted to say, okay, I want to see what the length of mine are, they want to see what the length of their telomeres are, is there a test that they can get, that you would suggest? Yeah.
I mean, we do tests here that are really accurate and really expensive. So it's like, but I don't think anybody's going to want to pay the $1,000 a test that it takes.
There's some that would. Yeah, there's some that would.
We just do it for our research. Okay. But the best test for measuring telomeres, there's multiple. By the way, I'm inventor or co-inventor of every single method, and also for every single method for measuring telomerase activity, things like that. But the best test is a company called LifeLength, LifeLength. Their website is lifelength.com, no spaces.
Okay.
And they measure what I think is extremely important, more important than anything. They measure the percent of telomeres that are critically short. And that is far more important than measuring the average telomere length. Okay. Now, the only company that does. So I highly recommend people go to them and get that measurement. But I wouldn't use that test as a way to measure whether something is lengthening your telomeres, because this is what I talk about a lot at conferences is if you're taking a blood sample or a saliva sample and measuring a before and after a treatment, looking at telomere lengths, you can find that your telomeres will increase just because the treatment or product is toxic, slightly toxic, preferentially killing off the cells with short telomeres because they're more sensitive to toxins. Or it's immunogenic, which is going to cause cells in your bone marrow and elsewhere to divide, add new immune cells to your blood. They're going to have longer telomeres. And so, you know, if you measure your telomeres before and after and you see that they're longer, it doesn't mean they got lengthened any more than if you had a company and you fired all your dumbest employees and saw the average IQ of your company go up. Doesn't mean that people got smarter.
Right.
Okay? Same as if you hired a bunch of geniuses and the average IQ went up. It doesn't mean your employees got smarter. The same thing is happening with your telomeres. It doesn't mean that your telomeres got longer. You just added or took away cells with short telomeres or added new cells with long telomeres. But in both those cases, cells elsewhere in your body had to divide and got shorter telomeres as a result. So you're actually accelerating your aging, not reversing your aging like you think. And this is a really big problem. So it's okay to use these telomere length tests to measure your telomeres, but don't think that if you see them get longer that they got lengthened.
Yeah.
Unless you can also measure for telomerase activity. If you can show that your supplement or treatment actually caused your cells to start producing telomerase, then you can believe that they got lengthened. And every single product that's out there right now shows no data showing telomerase expression, even though it's easy to detect. You know, I know that co-inventor of most of them, but they're easy to detect, but nobody shows that. And I believe it's because they did test for telomerase and didn't see anything, and they scratched their head. That doesn't make sense to them, but they thought, well, we see telomeres getting longer, so telomerase must be being produced, and they're just wrong. So you mentioned a product that I was going to talk about later. It's the only plant extract on the planet right now that actually does induce the production of telomerase, and there's only two other things that exist. One is telomerase gene therapy, which is super expensive, and the other is a pharmaceutical that's only been approved for use in skincare products so far.
Okay.
But the clinical studies that were done on that product are mind-boggling, and I'm just surprised that everybody in the world isn't buying this product. Not because I invented the ingredient in the product,
right?
But because I'm not in it for the money. I just want to see people be happier and healthier. But I'm just amazed that the company that I licensed it to isn't like the most successful company on the planet.
Give it time. Give it time. Yeah. So, I mean, if you want to speak about that, you know, it's a new product that you created called Telovital. So explain to us a little bit more about how you came up with that.
Well, Telovital is where we used our high throughput robotic screening protocols to test, 20,000 plant extracts. We found about 40 to 50 different plant extracts that when mixed with human cells causes those cells to produce telomerase. And we picked the top 5 or 6, the best 5 or 6, and mixed them together and licensed it to a company called Touchstone Essentials. And their website's thegoodinside.com.
Okay.
But they just launched the product about 2 to 3 weeks ago. I went to Austin, Texas, and spoke at the launch to explain the science behind the product. And but it's now on the market, and I'm actually quite proud of it. I mean, it's like with all the other products out there that can't induce telomerase and are making these false claims that they lengthen telomeres, this product does induce telomerase. I mean, it doesn't, and there's nothing, well, gene therapy is the only exception. There's nothing that actually lengthens the telomeres. But telomere shortening, lengthening is like a tug of war. You got shortening and lengthening going on at the same time. This product, Telovital, is adding people to the side of the tug of war to lengthen telomeres. Without it, you don't have anybody. You just have people on the side pulling to shorten. This adds people on the side to lengthen, but it doesn't win the tug of war. And believe me, if it did, we'd be seeing everybody get younger in every way imaginable.
Yeah.
Okay. but it does slow it down. It slows down the rate of telomere shortening. And I think this is the number one most important reason why everybody should be taking this product, because it is slowing their aging down. And it's the only thing that does, only nutraceutical that does, but the only oral supplement that does.
Okay.
There's the other product that I mentioned, which is a pharmaceutical that's improved for skincare product. That's called C0314818. The company changed the name to TAM, TAM 818, and it's sold by a company called One Truth 818.
Okay.
And that's just www.onetruth818.com. They're a company out of New Zealand, and they got clinical studies that are just mind-boggling, showing the effects on skin, but it's only approved for skincare. This Telovital that you mentioned is something that I think is the best thing on the planet, because it's going to help your skin too.
So if you and I in our upper 50s and above, we can benefit from it. What do you think it is for somebody that's in their 20s or 30s? They can benefit as well.
Absolutely. I even though Telovital says on the bottle, you have to be 18 to take it, and you can't be pregnant. If you're pregnant, you can't take it. That's just regulatory kind of garbage. And I shouldn't have used the word garbage, but because I can't tell people ignore what the bottle says. But in my opinion, if I was 5 years old, or if I was still an embryo inside my mother, I would be doing everything I could to decrease the rate of telomere shortening.
Okay.
Because at this point, you can't get it back. You can't get the telomeres back, but you can decrease the rate of shortening. So the earlier you start, the better for longer lifespans and health spans. But again, I can't say don't take it, and I can't say go ahead and take it.
Yeah.
Under 18 or you're a pregnant mother.
Everybody has to use their own discretion with it. So I know that you said, Bill, over time you do a lot of speaking conventions. You have your own essentially festival that you call the RAD Festival. How does that play out into the anti-aging and longevity market?
Well, it's not my own conference. I think it got spawned by me and a guy who heads up the Coalition for Radical Life Extension. Were on a hike, I think, in 2015. And we talked about how all the anti-aging conferences are filled with all kinds of charlatans and stuff like that are kind of like marketing every kind of thing you can imagine. And I learned all the tricks that they use to get you to believe that their product actually does something. And I just was disgusted by it all. He and I were talking about, wouldn't it be nice if there was a conference where no charlatans were invited? And so next thing I know, that was all I said during the hike. Next thing I know, this guy, James Stroll is his name. He tells me that he's started a conference through the Coalition of Radical Life Extension called RADFest.
Okay.
RAD is RAAD. It stands for Revolution Against Aging and Death. And it's followed by FEST, F-E-S-T, because they want to make it a festival, not so much a conference. So you can go there and dance in the breaks and things like that, music, performances, intermixed with great talks on how to slow down the aging process, how to benefit in all kinds of health ways. And one of the things that they did was they made me a board member for the Coalition of Radical Life Extension. And I'm also one of the people that screen speakers. So when somebody applies to speak, I do the due diligence and stuff like that. And pretty much, if I say yes, they speak. If I say no, they don't speak.
Okay, that's good.
And that's partly because my entire life I've been really good at what I call critical meta-analysis of peer-reviewed studies. All my education to find a cure for aging meant that throughout schools, I was taking classes and learning what can I really, what tools do I need to really know what's real and not real? And statistical theory was probably one of the most important things I ever took, learning probabilities and logic and things like that, but also the biologies, things like that, just statistics in general, learning about evolution, about why we age, and learning about molecular biology and how we age. Um, those things became really important, which made me really good at doing critical meta-analysis of peer-reviewed studies. In fact, I now have my own podcast that's called Up One. Okay, that only one episode has been aired so far, but it's all about me explaining all the critical meta. So I read all the studies. I would look at their experimental design, their interpretation of their data, their conclusions, and things like that, and weed out the good papers from the bad papers, and then just do a meta-analysis of just the good papers to find out what the conclusions are. In all cases, the good papers will all have the same conclusion, which I think is pretty promising that I'm doing the right thing. And so I do that with all the speakers. And so we only have really good speakers at RadFest. And I encourage everybody to go to RadFest if they really want to know what's best. And I'll tell you, I even this morning was meeting with one of the new speakers, helping her with her presentation, because I had heard her speak at another conference, and I thought, oh, she really knows her stuff. She knows really what's best and stuff like that. But I was kind of helping her, making it so that the audience would understand what she had to say better. I could understand it, but the audience is almost all general public, and they don't know. I'm not going to mention her name because there's a lot of women speaking at RadFest, and so nobody will know who I'm talking about. It will be an outstanding presentation. I guarantee it.
Yeah, I'm sure they all are, and all the speakers are great. Now, as we were kind of talking pre-call, there's also something that you're going to Washington, D.C. for called the Rally for Longevity Rights. Can you give us some more, details on that?
Well, I can't talk to this without mentioning Elizabeth Parrish. Okay, Elizabeth Parrish is somebody who is in the anti-aging field, and I consider her to be one of the most like-minded people there are with me in terms of not being in it for the money. She's totally in it for making people happier and healthier. And she went and so I've known her for like 10 years, and she went to graduate school to get her MBA, and she did her master's thesis on something called best choice medicine, something she coined called best choice medicine, which is because she was really frustrated by hearing about all these people suffering from life-threatening diseases that would try to get treatments to save their lives. The FDA would say, no, you can't do it because it's not approved. And then the people die.
Yeah.
Okay. So it just was nonsense. So she did her thesis on best choice medicine, making it, if you have a life-threatening disease, the patient's choice is the best choice.
Sure.
Regardless of what the FDA says. And so it's not just for people with life-threatening diseases, it's also for the people with diseases that make life not worth living. There's since high school, I've been going to hospices and assisted living homes and nursing homes, meeting with people and things like that, because I think aging and poor health is a terrible thing. And people don't know how many miserable people there are in the world because these people are in these homes. And everybody thinks, oh, aging is such a graceful thing and everything, but it's just terrible. So I was blown away when I read her master's thesis. And then I couldn't help it but to add on to it. And so she and I published a paper together called Best Choice Medicine. And it's a very good paper, in my opinion.
Okay.
I'm an author, but she's the main author. And then the Coalition for Radical Life Extension latched onto it. And they're now really interested. And the website for them is rlecoalition.com.
Okay.
So they went ahead and tried to organize a march and just got approval. Okay, so the march is going to be in September 2026. It's going to be in at the Lincoln Memorial, and there's going to be a few speakers, including me and Elizabeth Parrish. We're looking for more speakers
Okay.
that are passionately interested in this. We're not looking for people that just want to market products.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a really bad problem. And I actually had a colleague of mine who's meeting with Trump and RFK Jr. today, this morning.
Wow.
To bring it to their attention. I hope they end up being speakers too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do believe that they believe in this kind of stuff. I'm not political, so
It's okay.
just,
Yeah.
don't let anybody think that
It's just the person that's there. That's all it is. It's only the person that's there.
I don't want to get a lot of people now threatening me for not believing in what they believe.
You're not promoting anything or anyone. Yeah.
I think this will be super exciting, and I think it can really make a big difference in the world, in the United States especially. But I think the world would follow suit with such a thing, because it's just nonsense. But I can't wait for this rally. I've been speaking at conferences about best choice medicine and the Rally for Longevity Rights, along with everything else that I speak on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, you've done some amazing work through your career, that's for sure, and it's only growing. Where do you want to see your business, your research, Sierra Sciences in the next 5 years?
You know, I've been saying this for 10 years, at least. From all the work we've already done, I can, and progress that we have made, really real progress, I can extrapolate from all that and figure out if we could continue doing the research at the rate we had been in the past, we could actually have a cure for aging, something that would make us all feel younger, look younger, behave younger by every method of measurement known in 1 to 3 years.
Wow.
Okay. And everybody else is quoting now 2045 and things like that when aging won't be around anymore. I think we can do it a lot sooner if I could have the funding that I need. Okay, so I think I mentioned before that my research to test different things costs $2 million a month. Okay, and so I'm working on trying to find. And by the way, Telovital. When somebody uses Telovital, Touchstone Essentials sends me a portion of their profits to fund my research. So people that buy Telovital, they have the also knowledge that they are contributing towards my research to cure aging. Every penny goes to the research too.
Okay.
I'm working on trying to find the really big sources of funding. I've had every billionaire here that you can imagine, except for Elon Musk and one other that's really is. So, I've had them all here, trying to get them convinced that profits aren't everything. Let's work on let's putting all this together towards a cure for aging. Fortunately, you would think even though that some people are multi-billionaires, they still want profits.
Yeah.
And that means finding other things to do that'll bring quicker return on investments. Even though I always say 1 to 3 years is all it'll take, it still has to have clinical studies afterwards. I always say, it's very frustrating. I say investors invest in the dream, but not the dream coming true. And because the dream is working with somebody like me that has a lot of skills at getting products done and making things happen, but I'm not into the profits. I'm into I look at return on humanitarian investment.
Yeah, you're into
humanitarian return on investment, not the financial return.
Yeah, you're into it for your mission, what you believe is right for every person that's out there. Not that they're in it for self-benefit, company benefit, but you've had a mission for a long time, since you were 10 years old, and you can see how it can benefit people.
And I look forward to interviewing Liz Parrish, because she's exactly the same way.
Okay.
The next 5 years, I would like to get funding from one of these. And there's a few billionaires or people that have wealth that makes them worth $1 billion or more.
Mm-hmm.
They are very interested in moving along. They've promised to stay out of my way, not interfere with the science. They want to head up the marketing part of the company that would be marketing products, who I don't have anything to do with. They can do the marketing. They would provide me with the funding. But I've learned and I've done a lot of due diligence on these people. These people really do have this wealth, even though for every one person I found that does, there's 10 others that are just faking it. And I've learned that they're faking it. But these ones, they have a really, really tough time getting their money out of banks to make it liquid. And banks want to hold on to money. There's money laundering organizations that block everything because they're worried that it's going to be funding terrorism, or there's a host of different problems. And so that's been the struggle of trying to get one of these people. There's one in particular that I'm really, really interested in. If he hears this podcast, he'll know who he is.
Okay.
Because he's the one that I've been mostly interested in working with, who's going to be so like-minded with me.
Okay.
But, I'm just waiting for one of them to come through. And if they do, especially this one person, I'm not going to mention his name, that would provide me with the funding, and I would have aging cured in 1 to 3 years.
Wow.
And based on my track record of saying the same things with human growth hormone, beta seron, tissue plasminogen activator, thrombomodulin, all these kind of things, I guarantee it would happen. I'm really, really good at budgeting time and costs and making things happen when I say they're going to happen. And I could have a cure for everybody's aging in 1 to 3 years. And one of the things that I like is that the person I'm talking to, he's willing to drop it from airplanes to make it available to everybody. Okay, and but that's because he's interested in making people happier and healthier, just like me and Liz Parrish are.
Yeah. Well,
that's my 5-year goal.
Okay. Well, it's a lofty goal. It's a lofty goal with a shorter runway than 5 years, which is great. And we'll hopefully get this in front of that person that can hear it and see where it would be more beneficial. I guess before we completely wrap this up, Dr. Andrews, how can people, where would you like people to go to learn more about you and to potentially, fund what you're doing? Like where can we point them to?
Well, Google searches and other searches on the internet is a good way to find out about me. And I think more people need to know about me because there's so many charlatans out there, and the charlatans are really good at marketing and promoting themselves, and they're skilled in the art of persuasion, and I'm not that type of person. And so people aren't hearing about me as often as they do. And they can find me, but there is my website, www.sierrasci.com. So it's SIERRASCI.com.
Okay.
I don't maintain my website. It's a good place to get a little bit of information, but there's links that don't work and stuff like that because I'm spending every penny I make on the research, not on keeping my website up to date. But there's so many YouTube videos, and go to RadFest. Okay. I would say the best place to really meet me and hear about my stuff is at RadFest. Also, my email address, feel free to publish my email address. I don't charge for advice. If people email me with questions and stuff like that, I respond.
Okay, we'll get that.
Without saying, well, here's my fee. And, it's like, I do have a LinkedIn page, but I never use LinkedIn. I actually personally don't like LinkedIn. Facebook, I actually prefer.
Okay. We'll put those links in the notes for everybody to get those too as well. Yeah.
All right. And let me just say that after I cure aging, I'm not done. There's some things that are bad in the world that really don't have anything to do with aging. And I want to work on those. There's a lot of problems in the world. And so, and let's say alcoholism is one of them. Alcoholism has nothing to do with aging, but I know how to cure alcoholism. Okay. And I would love to get that. I also know how to make better vaccines for COVID and other things like that than exist today. I think those are all shortcut vaccines that don't work very well. I've invented 3 vaccines already. There's a whole lot of things that I want to do after I cure aging, after I know I have more time myself to be able to work on these.
Your work is not done. That's what it sounds like.
It'll never be done.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap up here, Dr. Andrews, I do want to say thank you very much for sharing your insights and expertise with us today. You've got an extremely unique perspective and history from being a pioneer in the anti-aging services, and it really helps our audience understand the full spectrum of healthcare possibilities. So for our listeners, if you found today's conversation valuable, which I have no idea how you couldn't find it, please subscribe. And we would love for you to share this information for others that would benefit. And if you know people that have deep pockets that could help fund Dr. Andrews' processes, that would be a great component too. So until next time, stay in the forefront of your wellness journey. And for other practitioner friends that are out there and potential patients, remember the best time to optimize both your business and your personal longevity is today. So thank you again for your time, Dr. Andrews. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Derek.